This episode is brought to you by nvidhemp.com. So let's talk CBD for a minute. It's all over the news, and there are so many PGA Tour players using it, such as Phil Mickelson and Bubba Watson, to name a few, but there are many others, and now some top teachers, including myself, are taking advantage of this amazing product. But what is it exactly? Short for cannabidiol, CBD is a chemical compound from the cannabis plant. It's a naturally occurring substance that's used in products like oils and roll-ons to impart a feeling of relaxation and calm and to reduce inflammation as well. Now, it doesn't get you stoned, but it has many organic rejuvenating effects. One of my favorite brands is Envid. Their CBD products come in 3 varieties: Relief, Clarity, and Relax. Relief CBD products help relieve pain and those sore muscles. Clarity allows you to focus on those critical shots or whatever the task is at hand. And Relax CBD products are for those anxious golf moments or those moments in your life when you just need to take the edge off. I would not endorse any product that I didn't use personally, and I can tell you that I've been testing this stuff for over a month now, and it's a game changer. I take a drop of Relax right before bed, and it's helped me get some of the best sleep that I've had in years, which for those that know me, I'm up all the time with a busy mind, so it's really, really helped, and I feel so much better in the morning after just getting some deep REM sleep for a change. I also take a drop of the Clarity in the morning with my coffee to kind of get my day started, which is giving me an alertness and a focus that I have never experienced in my life. It's just unbelievable. I also use the roll-on for some sore muscles and joints after a run or a workout. Right now, I have an incredible offer for you. Go to nvidhemp.com and use the promo code GURU20, that's GURU and the number 20, for a 20% discount for life. You heard it right, 20% discount for life. Go check it out. I'm telling you, it's a game changer in golf and in your life. Now let's get to this week's episode. This episode is brought to you by Hack Motion. Hack Motion is a cutting-edge wrist sensor for teaching wrist motion for compressed tour-like shots. I spent some time with these guys down at the show, and I really enjoyed how easy it was to use, and the calibration time was super simple, and especially the biofeedback option that will definitely make for a more effective golf lesson for your students. You can use it with your iPhone, your iPad, and it gives your students the feel to go along with the reel as you teach the proper wrist motion for better club face control, which, as you know, is huge in the teaching game. Used by some of the top coaches in our industry, Hack Motion is a must for serious golf teachers, coaches, or players. Also, when ordering upon checkout, use the promo code GURU, GURU, to receive free shipping, which is a $30 value. For more information and to order, visit their website at hackmotion.com. HACKMOTION.com today.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1, no touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I am your host, Jason Sutton, and I am the Guru. I just want to personally thank everybody for supporting the podcast. I'm overwhelmed with the response and the downloads. So make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing when the new episodes come out. So I appreciate it and looking forward to bringing you more high-performing guests like the one I'm about to bring you. Before that happens, I want to make you aware of a special opportunity for you coaches and players out there. If you want to check out my app for free, that's right, I said it, for free. I am doing a 7-day free trial. The easiest way to get to it is to go first follow me on Instagram and then check out the bio in my Instagram, which gives you the link and it will give you a free access code to get into the app where you can access all the drills that could be helpful for your teaching and coaching, but also to your players, and also a Facebook-like feed that has tons of great information in it with live lessons, live look-ins, just a lot of cool stuff that I do during the day that I film and put in as content for the app for subscribers. And it'll also give you the opportunity to go ahead and subscribe if you like it. I think you're going to find it useful. So let's get to my guest on this episode, my good friend, Mr. James Hong. For those of you who don't know the Honger, he is the director of instruction at Harbor Links Golf Club in Long Island, New York, and is a Golf Digest top in-state teacher, one of the top teachers in New York, and also one of the top teachers in the country. Specializes in juniors, but as we talk about in this conversation, teaches adults and tour players as well, but is just a brilliant coach as well as a unbelievable human being, and as I call my brother from another mother. And I just love this guy, one of my favorite people in the world and in the golf business. So I bring you the incredible, brilliant, and also entertaining Mr. James Hong. Enjoy. What's up, Honger? Welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming through.
How's it going? This is going to be a giggle fest, I can tell.
Yeah, that's all right. It's all good. How are things up north?
It's been good. Weather's starting to turn a little bit chillier now, but we've been very lucky so far.
Yeah, we're finally getting some fall weather ourselves. It's been like crazy hot, like breaking records, like almost 100 here in Charlotte. So
yeah,
it's kind of nice to be able to throw a little sweater on in the morning.
It is. I used to hate this kind of weather when I was younger, but I guess now that I'm eligible for an AARP card.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, thanks for coming back on the show. You've been on the show once, but it was with the condo at the PGA show group session, right? So you didn't really get to talk too much with Dunnigan and Jeff Smith and those guys.
John Dunnigan.
Exactly.
It's starting already.
It is. So this will be good. We can get your take on some things, and obviously we're going to dig into some junior golf stuff. But I thought we'd start in a place that maybe not too many people know about you, unless they're close to you, like myself, and that's fencing. The sport of fencing.
Yeah.
I just remember the conversation we had in the condo at the PGA show. I thought it was super interesting. Can you enlighten the listeners a little bit about how you got into fencing and then how that sort of transformed into teaching? But I thought, if I remember correctly, I know we'd had a few glasses of wine, but talking about your coach and then sort of what you drew from that. So just kind of catch us up on that and let's just see where that goes, because I thought that was super interesting.
Sure. When I went to high school, the first day that I was walking through classes, through the hallways, I saw a couple of guys, and you're an impressionable 14-year-old, and you see them wearing these really cool jackets, these varsity jackets, and I'm like, I wonder what team that is. And I followed them around a little bit, and it turned out it was the fencing team. And I was like, fencing. And then I checked out the other sports like soccer and baseball and football, and their jackets sucked. So
it's all about the jackets.
Yeah, they had the coolest jackets. So I said, let me check this out. And then they basically had a sort of a tryout, or it's like for beginners as well as experienced people. Come on down. How many experienced people are you going to have for fencing? It's not like football tryouts or something. So they would take beginners, and I fell in love with it right away. It was very technical, very detail oriented, very, it's not like just do this and you'll be okay. It's like you actually had to do little things here and there, baby steps, so to speak. And it's kind of like the equivalent of golf, learning how to hold the club and learning how to set up correctly and all that stuff. So I got into that, and I just became obsessed with it. And within a couple of years, I was actually pretty good and on, borderline a starter on the team. And, they throw me in there every now and then in a couple of competitions. And that kind of got me motivated a little bit more to get more involved in these kind of things. And it was interesting in that how detailed they are. And we're talking like way back early 1980s. And they talked a lot about ground reaction forces, how to move, how to use your feet to move a certain way, how to get your feet, your hips, your legs to move so that you could go faster, more vertically, more horizontally, all this stuff. So we were doing that right away. And as I progressed in the sport and got better at it, I had reached a point where thought I was peaking out and like, well, it's not like something you could become a professional at and earn a lot of money. So there were leagues and stuff that you could play tournaments. You could compete in tournaments and stuff. And if you were good enough, you would compete nationally. And I would say I was like right at the lower cusp of that. So then it's a question of, is it worth it to spend money to go travel and compete in tournaments when you're going to be coming in like 150th every time? And I ran into one coach. His name is Vasil Etropolsky. He's a Bulgarian. And he talks like this, and hey, James, if the fact that actually you're not very good, you're not bad. That's the way he talked. He was very sarcastic, and we got to talking about stuff, and he would tell me, hey, why don't you give it one more year, see what happens? I help you out and everything, and lo and behold, he was like very different from all of the other coaches I had. So there's your first inkling of what it's like to have a coach that inspires you all of a sudden.
Sure.
And he would tell me all these things, and he was from the Eastern Bloc. So it was kind of cool to hear some of the stories that you would hear about all of the Soviet Union and the East Germans and how they would train and stuff. And he would say like, yeah, there's some stuff you really shouldn't know about, but their training methods were really, especially back then, were way ahead of their time, how they would do things. And he would show me and talk to me about how they were very connected with how the body moves and how you would do certain things with your feet to get your hands to move faster. Stuff like that. Oh, that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like golf.
So I got really into that, and he would tell me stories, and the other coaches that he knew would tell me about, if your heel is going this way, you're going to move your hips that way, and that's going to do this and do that. And also they would show me, because it's like martial arts where you're actually trying to fake the other person into believing that you're either doing one thing when you actually are doing something else, or you're trying to fake them out.
Gotcha.
And so we really got involved in learning how to use the ground to move our bodies in certain ways. And I became very good. I became better at it. And he showed me ways that, like, yeah, you're very slow, but if you do this, you can get away with it. And lo and behold, I was able to get away with it. And so I became pretty good. And that was my last couple of years of competition. And then I got injured and just never went back. But that kind of started carrying over into other sports.
Yeah, and I think from what I remember, he was really good at demonstrating, right? Like he was good, like he could really do the stuff, right? You were showing me how you guys were sparring. And and if you could beat him, like you felt like you could probably go to the Olympics. He was lightning. It was like lightning fast, Bruce Lee kind of stuff. It was, and he was I think it was 1983 world champion in saber, men's saber. Wow. So
I would go to his house, and he'd have medals that were the size of dinner plates that were like, he'd pull it out of the closet, he won this over in Bucharest, and I'm like, oh, holy cow, that thing's gold. And he was actually a favorite, I think, in the 84 and 88 Olympics for the gold medal.
Wow.
And so he was good. He was fast. And so, he would always, at the end of his lessons, he would give, like, all right, let's go 2 points and 3 points. And he would just stand there, and you would try and do anything, and he would just kind of like, yawn in his mask and boop, boop, and then, no, that kind of stuff. And I remember, like you said, it was one time where he didn't really. I wasn't pissed off at him, but I was pissed off. I was frustrated, and I did something. And he would always tell me, he's like, "Stop doing the same thing over and over again. You know, go crazy, do something that totally opposite of what you feel is normal." That sounds familiar too, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
And I remember one day just that his voice was in my head while we were doing this, and I literally told myself, do the opposite of what feels comfortable. And I got a point against him. And I could see his face going, "Whoa, not bad. Oh," like that.
You're
and
learning.
I threw my mask off and started screaming like I won the gold medal in the Olympics. I was like, I got a point. I got a freaking legitimate point. Oh my God. So yeah, you're right. It's like, and then he would like, see if you can do it again. And it didn't work.
No chance.
No chance. And he would just stand there, and it's like he would hold his weapon, and then you would be doing all this stuff, and then it would be like that.
Oh my gosh.
And then and it'd be like,
hit you in the head.
Just hit me in the head or wherever. And it was just magical.
So what do you remember, like, specifically about his coaching style that I'm sure you've probably applied to your coaching in golf now, right? And we can obviously get into your journey, but that seemed like, I mean, just from talking about it before, it seemed like it had a really big effect on the things you were kind of learning and applying to golf.
Well, I think one influence he had, and it was funny, like after our conversation that night, I thought about it even more. And I know that one of the big influences he had on me was the fact that he was just different. Like I had taken lessons from other coaches, and they were all basically the same. And then I took lessons with him, and it was totally different.
And you liked that?
And I liked it.
Yeah.
And he would say, like, yeah, you know, some people, they think I'm crazy because you know, I don't do what everyone else does. And it's true even in our business. It's when a student, if you're doing something different from what the other 20 teachers do, are you better because you're different, or is it you must be the idiot because the other 20 guys all do the same thing? So
sure,
you don't know what you're doing. So it's up to the student to decide. And for me, it's the fact that he was different. That's what drew me to him. And he was unique in that he actually broke boundaries. He would say, everybody says to do this, I don't care about that. And you know, again, this all sounds very familiar, but it's like somebody today saying, oh, the golf grip has to be this way, and then all of a sudden getting a teacher saying, no, you hit the ball fine with what you have, so why change it?
Yeah. So at what point was it results? Because obviously you're gonna listen to something like that just long enough, you know, coming from a student's perspective, till you're gonna be like, oh, this guy is crazy. But obviously you started improving. Was there like a moment that do you remember that happened where it just ignited you and go, okay, this is different, but it's also working?
Yeah, it was a combination of him saying, like at one point, even a competition, he calls a timeout, comes over to me, and he basically was frustrated with what he was saying, what he was seeing. And he would say, listen, this is what this guy is going to do. He's going to do this because he does this all the time. He taps his foot and then he does this. Okay, so when you see him tap his foot, you do this and then you do that. I'm telling you, it's going to work. It's going to work because I'm a genius. Right?
Yeah, right.
Right, and he would say things like that. And then I would watch the guy, and I was competing against him. I was like, oh my God, he's doing it. He's actually doing what Vasile said. And then so I followed his directions, and sure enough, it was like, oh wow, I got the point. It was easy.
Yeah.
And then I could hear him say, hey, listen to me.
Yeah. It kind of reminds you of like Karate Kid, right? It's like, how long am I going to watch these cars before I actually learn something? And then all of a sudden the moment happens and
bingo.
Yeah. The aha moment.
And it's funny. And then once he realized that I was getting it, then what would happen soon afterwards is he'd say, what do you think this guy's going to do? And I say, well, it looks like he's going to do this. So what do you think you should do? I think I should do this. Yeah, then go do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd put it back on you, right?
Yeah. And then I would do it. And I'd be like, wow, I can't believe I actually could see or predict that what this person is doing against me. And it just became easier and easier and easier. And yeah, so that's when I was like, Yep. Okay. And what happened is his other students, we would all gather around, and it became sort of this club mentality of, we like the fact that we're learning things different from what everyone else would do.
Sure.
And then when we would go to competitions, we would sit around and go, oh yeah, those guys over there, they're learning from this coach, and I bet all they work on is this and this and this. Ha 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 ha.
Because their style was, you could predict their style, right?
You could predict their style. And what was great about him was unpredictability. So he had me, who was small and slow, and then he'd have another guy who was lightning fast, and our styles were completely different, and yet he was able to adapt not only his teaching to us, but we could learn from him, and we were totally different.
So you did that through high school, or how long did that last before, like you said, you got injured, and then you had to pivot into what? So what happened next?
So that lasted until my mid-20s, and the best experience I had to this day was going to a World Cup, and I competed in a World Cup in Kansas City. And that's like, basically, I wouldn't say it's a major, like in golf, it's not like it's a major, but it's like the Tour Championship. And I remember competing in it, and there's some little moments where I was off in the corner, and what's cool about your uniform is you're in the back of your uniform, it's the country that you're representing. So my uniform says Hong, and underneath it says USA. I mean, just to know that you're wearing your country's letters are like, it's like you get goosebumps. And then I remember being in that tournament and hearing guys going, come on, USA, you can do it. You can do it. Go, USA. And I'm just thinking it's just people in the background. And I didn't realize until halfway in that they were cheering for me just because I had USA on the back. And at one point I heard really close, like, come on, man, you could do it. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You're doing great, great. I turn around. It's 3 guys that are on the current U.S. Olympic team. And they're cheering for me.
Wow.
And I'm going like, yeah, that's like, whoa, holy cow. And I remember in that bout, I lost to the guy 5-3. But when the guy took his mask, he came over and said, "You're very good." And he shook my hand. He walked away. And one of the guys that was cheering for me walked over and was unhooking me from the scoring machine. He goes, "You know who that guy is? You know who that guy is? That guy's like, so I don't know, Romanowski or whatever from East Germany. He's like one of their top 5 guys."
Wow.
All right. So it's like, wow, he thought I was okay. And what was funny is we were in qualifying rounds, and then all of a sudden they announced who qualified for the finals. And it's, it's like, I forget how many people qualified for 40 people, something like that, out of 120 competitors. And I qualified. And so of course I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty cool. I qualified for the championship round. It's kind of like U.S. Amateur, where it's they go, right, the first 36 holes or whatever is this, and then you're put in order.
Right, in a match play.
And then it goes into match play, and it's the same thing. And so I made it, and then I see the people that didn't make it. And it was all of these top 5, top 10 Americans. And I'm going, holy cow, this no name makes it, and none of these guys made it. And I face off against this one guy from Romania. And this guy, I swear to this day, I don't remember seeing him move. He was so fast. and it's 15 points to win to get to the next round. And I lost to him like 15-11.
Oh, wow. Pretty
and
close.
I'm like, okay, I did a good job. And then later on, guys like who were you competing against? Romanik Zginbenish. It's like, oh, that guy's really good. What was the score? I said, I lost 15-11. And all of these Americans were going, you got 11 off of him? You got 11? And then they turn around, yo, see this guy Hong, he got 11 off of, and people would be coming over and like, you got 11 points off of that guy? Right? I mean, he turned out he was like top 10 in the world.
That's crazy.
And so all of a sudden, I had all of these people that knew who I was. And like, yeah, and then afterwards, you're like, yo, we're going to this place. You're going to come with us, right? You're going to come with us. And then you get to hang with them. And, I just remember that experience and going, it's like, that will live, that will go till the day I die. That'll be with me.
Oh, yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how long after that before you had to hang it up, or did you compete for a while?
Probably
or-
another year,
Mm-hmm.
and then what I did was I was coaching. Also, I started coaching two colleges.
Oh, okay. So
And
you're teaching fencing.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
became their coach, their head coach. So there I am starting to move into coaching, and that was an exciting experience because, of course, I copied my coach's style,
Sure.
and we would have to do kind of the equivalent of meatball surgery. It's, you know what it is? It's like you and I, giving a lesson to a guy who said, yeah, I haven't touched a club in 2 years, but I have an outing next week.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, can you give me a lesson in 1 hour? And that was basically what it was like in college. Is I'd get 5 beginners, and I'd have to teach them how to fence. And oh, by the way, we have our first match in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so you learned real fast how to kind of cut to the chase, and like, enough of this, and let's get the grip right, and let's do the stance right, and everything like that. That it's not as necessary as people make it out to be.
So were you in school at the time, or is it after? Did you go to college?
Yep. Yeah.
So this was after college. You started.
This is
teaching?
after college. Yeah. So it was that. It was working and running around the city, and then showing up for practice and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself a lot.
So how does that lead to golf instruction? That's what everybody wants to know now, right? So what was the big moment? Give us that story. I know it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when I grew up, I mean, I was an only child, so I learned how to amuse myself and do things. And if I wanted to learn something, I developed a good eye at just observing and watching and copying. I mean, I used to copy batting stances when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And when I was playing Little League, I would pretend I'm this person. I'm pretending I would copy pitching motions, everything, how people walked. And, that eventually led to, the impressions and stuff. But,
yeah. And you do impressions?
Yeah.
We'll get back to that.
We'll get back to that later.
Yeah. And Manzella just showed up. I'm sorry. Get out of the room. All right. Yeah.
And so what happened was that I started to kind of self-teach golf. I learned it by watching it. I got into it because my dad started learning. He would show me stuff, and it was a great way for us to spend time together. Once I was able to actually be on the golf course, we would go every Friday afternoon because he was a college professor, so he would have Fridays off. I'd get out of school, he'd pick me up, and we'd go right to one of the local golf courses and play 18 holes. We spent almost every Friday doing that, and so that was a lot of fun. And so every time I wanted to get better, I'd always look at things, look at books, look at video, and I'm talking video, like real video, not VCR tapes even. This is even earlier than that, and TV. And just sit and watch people hit balls at the local driving range. So to cut to the chase, there's a driving range down the road from me where I lived. And I would go there, hit balls and stuff, and I befriended the head instructor there. Like, I met him, he and I were the same age, and within 5 minutes we were best friends for life. And we would hang out all the time and stuff. We would talk about golf, the golf swing. He would tell me stuff, and he knew that I knew how to fix clubs, regrip clubs. And so he said, hey, why don't you work here like on a Saturday, make some little bit extra cash. Plus, since you'd be an employee, you get to hit balls for free.
So what was his name? You're going to drop his name?
His name is Jason Kang. He's a PGA Class A. He's in Korea now. And so that's how it got started. And I would start doing reshafts, regripping. Remember, this is back like late 80s.
Sure.
And made some extra cash, and that turned into 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, come in the evenings, do a couple of things. So one day they just said, hey, you want to work in the pro shop? You want to be one of our sales guys? And you get a commission on sales. I got hired. I'm working sales part-time there. And so we started doing this special after I worked there for about a year or two, where it was, if you bought a set of irons, you got a free half-hour lesson. If you bought a set of woods, fairway woods, driver, you got a free half-hour lesson. If you bought just the driver, then you got a 15-minute lesson. But none of the instructors wanted to do it because it was free. They weren't going to get paid for it.
Right.
So Jason said, well, why don't you just give all of those lessons to James? So I would give all of those free lessons. And what he would tell me, he says, you know what's happening? People are coming back wanting to sign up for more lessons with you. So you should start thinking about maybe you should teach. And at the time I was like, you guys, you clowns. It's like, why should I teach? And I was already coaching in college fencing. And it's like, I don't want to do this for a living and whatnot. But I started kind of getting a little bit more intrigued about it. And he would say, hey, why don't you come watch me give a few lessons? Or why don't you just hit balls while I'm teaching and listen in? And I'd start getting interested because I would hear things. It's like, oh, that's just like fencing. Well, that's exactly how a fencing lesson would be.
Comes full circle.
Yeah. And then I started getting more into it. And then they did the Jimmy Ballard certification.
Nice.
And he said, why don't you come along? And I got to meet Jimmy Ballard. And that was my first step into serious golf instruction, getting to meet him and hear his thoughts and hear him, get certified, so to speak, at that time.
7 common denominators.
Yep. And then I got transferred to one of Family Golf's ranges up in Westchester, and I became a manager there. And they had a junior program there on Saturday mornings, and none of the pros were going to teach it because they'd make more money giving private lessons. So I was like, well, I'll do it. So I started teaching juniors on Saturday mornings, and that's how the ball started rolling. And about a year after that, Jason calls me up again, and he goes, hey, listen, I'm not at the range anymore. I'm at this golf course, and I have a little budding junior program that's developing here, and why don't you come and join me, be my assistant instructor? So I joined him and started helping him teach the kids there, and the kids were really good. They got better. And a year after that, he said, I'm going to see if I can start another golf school down in Florida, so you're in charge of the one up here. It's all yours.
And where was this at? Is this where?
And this was at Clearview Golf Course, which is here in Queens. Mm-hmm. And I was there for about 5 years, and that became a program. Little 5-6 stalls, like all really tight, and very little space to hit balls. So the kids had to be accurate, because if they hit a 20-yard draw, they were in the first fairway on the left. If they hit a little 10-yard slice to the right, they're in the 10th fairway on the right. It's that narrow, and the kids were good, and I was tough on them, and it got to the point where they were winning a lot of junior tournaments, and that's how it all got started right there.
As golfers, the game creates wear and tear on your body and mind. Envied CBD products can organically rejuvenate you. They come in 3 varieties: Relief, Clarity, and Relax. Relief CBD products help relieve pain. Clarity allows you to focus on those critical shots. And Relax CBD products are for those anxious golf moments. Right now, I've got an incredible special for you. Go to InveedHemp.com and use the promo code GURU20 for a 20% discount for life. So what was it about the kids? Like, did you draw back upon your fencing and feel like, hey, I can really contribute here, or what was it, do you think?
Yeah, it was some of that, definitely. It was also, the more I started teaching adults, the more I found teaching juniors was just more rewarding, it was fun. Sure, you'd get the adult who every now and then would actually try to work on their game.
Yeah.
And they improved, and that was rewarding. But reality sets in. They have jobs, families, everything like that. They don't have the time to do what a lot of these kids, they would come after school 3:30 and then stay there till 6. And just practice and play, get lessons from me and stuff. And so the improvement there was rapid. And I was really tough on them to a point.
Yeah, I know you've talked about that. We've had that discussion. It's like, when did you decide that you needed to shift gears and not be softer, but just change your approach?
Yeah, it actually was at my next place, which is where I am now. And what happened was I went to a TPI level 1 seminar, and Dr. Greg Rose was talking. It's like, how many of you teach juniors, and how many of you I was like, I thought I was a man. I was like, yeah, I teach juniors, and they're freaking good, man. They're good because I'm good. Ha ha ha.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Are they successful? Yeah. Yeah. You know, how many you can raise your hand and say you have successful kid? Yeah. And then his question was, all right, raise your hand if you make it fun for the kids. And I realized I couldn't raise my hand because all I remembered at that moment that he asked the question was how many times I was shaking my head at them and telling them they're not good enough. And man, you might as well just stay home. Don't come back and stuff like that. And just that kind of a coach, a football mentality.
Right.
And when I realized at that moment I couldn't raise my hand, so I didn't. And then Greg, it's almost like Greg Rose knew there was me. And it's almost like he was looking at me and he goes, because if you can't make it fun to the kids, you're worthless. Or he said something to that effect.
Oh, wow.
And instead of me, I could have easily been like, who the hell are you, you idiot, you pompous, right?
Right.
I stood there and it was like a kick in the head going, he's right. He's absolutely right. It's like, yeah, they're winning these tournaments. They're getting all these accolades. But the only time I can remember the kids smiling or enjoying themselves was when I actually made an effort to have them enjoy themselves. Like we would play dodgeball in the middle of the range, stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
I would have pizza parties for them, and that's when it was fun. I was like, well, why don't I do that more? And that's when I kind of started to realize, yeah, you know what, I'm not doing the best. I thought I was doing the best for them. My intentions were well meant,
right?
But the way I was going about doing it was just not the right way.
Where do you think that came from? Was it something like, how were your parents? Like I was going to ask you, like, was that something you got from your childhood, the way you were raised, or was it just something that you thought needed to happen for you to get the results?
I think it was a combination. It was a little bit of everything because my parents were tough on me, but they weren't like Asian parents strict. They were a little bit below that because their thought was, we're living in the United States. He's going to be an American. So there's no point in treating him like he's from another country.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted me to have friends of all races, ethnicities. And so they didn't even want me speaking Korean in the house.
Interesting.
They didn't do any of that. So everything was English. Speaking English, speaking English, speaking English. And it was funny because they would speak to each other in Korean and they would speak to each other in Japanese. Huh. And when I understood what they were saying in Korean, they would switch to Japanese. So
wow.
Yeah, and so we had a somewhat trilingual house. And so what would happen also from a strict upbringing, because I was an only child, was I would, of course, as I got older, rebel.
Yeah.
But what would happen as I got older was regret in that, my parents, they did know what they were talking about. They did realize, and I didn't realize it at the time.
Kids, listen up.
So part of my motivation was, don't blow it. I'm trying to help you not blow it. Don't you see the opportunity you're getting here? Yeah. Give it 100%. And if it still doesn't work out after you gave it 100%, you can sleep soundly. You're not going to have any regrets or guilt. And like I said, I think I just pushed that to a fault.
Yeah. And your parents, were they both educators? Or
my dad was a college professor.
Yeah.
My mom was a stay-home wife.
Okay.
Stay-home housewife. But she was tough. She was unusual in that she graduated from, I believe it's Keio University. She actually went to university in Japan.
Okay.
And she came here, and I believe she went to, I forget if it was Parsons or FIT, Fashion Institute here. And she studied fashion design. And, anybody that knows Asian culture, it's very male-dominated society. And at the time, we're talking like 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
She was actually the first public opinion reporter in Korea.
So she had to be thick-skinned.
That was a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she basically was like, it's not when she was a housewife, like I said, but it's not like your typical. Her attitude was basically, I'm cooking dinner because I'm cooking dinner, not because I'm supposed to cook dinner or I'm supposed to follow some sort of role play. Right. So she was the enforcer in the family.
Gotcha. All right. So then you moved to the facility you're at now, right?
Yep.
And so how did that start? Was there already a junior program, or talk a little bit about how you started that process?
Yeah.
Because I think that's a big part of your story.
Yeah, there was a pretty good junior program in place there when I got there. And when I got hired, the general manager at the time, Keith Miller, and the assistant general manager, Bob Lippiello, they already knew that I teach juniors, a lot of juniors. And so they were like, yeah, you're going to fit in really well. And so that first year, I taught a lot of juniors. We had a pretty decent summer program, summer camps and everything. And at the end of the year, the general manager, Keith, he calls me into his office, like, so what do you think about your first year? We talked about it. And he goes, do you think you have any ideas for any changes? And I said, well, yeah, I've got some ideas and stuff. And he looked at me and he goes, do it.
Okay.
He goes, every idea you have, let's do it. We're going to throw it up against the wall and let's see what sticks.
Oh, that's a good boss.
Yep. And I said, okay. And then the next year I started implementing things here and there. And that was the first step. And what would happen each year was it got better, bigger, but I was never satisfied. Like, so what was good? What did we do that was good? How can we make that better? Is there anything we can keep the same? Is there anything that didn't work? If it didn't work, can we make that better, or should we ditch it? And so every year there was always something that was different, something that was added or subtracted or changed. And it just kept growing each year.
So for those coaches out there, young coaches that are trying to improve their junior golf programs, like, what do you think they need? Like, what are the pieces? And you can go through a little bit of your changes and evolution, and then what does your program look like now? Because I think it's fantastic, the way you do the pod system and your off-season training. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think for coaches that are just starting out, pay attention to what you see around you. And I would talk to relatives. If you don't have kids of your own, talk to your relatives and friends that have children. Ask them, what is it that they look for when they sign their kids up to some sort of program? Could be a dance program, could be football, soccer. What is it they're looking for? Are they looking for their kids to actually learn something, become active in the sport or whatever activity is, or they're just doing it for participation purposes to see if their kids like it, and find that out. And if you have kids, think about it as a parent. If my child was in this program, what would I expect him or her to get out of this? Because that's what I did every year. I've got two sons, and if my sons were in these programs, what do I want? Mm-hmm. And then I would see things that I'm doing that, oh my God, if my kid was in this program, no, I'd be upset. And I would take care of that, or that's really good. And sometimes what I would do is I would just ask the kids in the program, hey, what'd you think of that thing we just did? Oh, it was really cool, James. And like, yeah. Oh, it really sucked.
They'll be honest with you.
Yeah, and I tell them, be honest with me, don't worry. And so I think that's important. And, you know, with the programs that we run now, it's just, what I think happens is that if you're at a place for an extended period of time, you start to see the kids develop with you. Each year that you're there, they're growing with you. Now, they're not all going to stay with you. People move away, or your message gets old, so they go to another teacher. These things happen.
Sure.
But you're there for their development. So I look at it as you're creating first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, junior high school, etc. Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, the way our programs were originally structured, we had a beginner program, and then all of a sudden we had an advanced program, and there was nothing in between. So what would happen is, yeah, my kids have been in your camps for 3 years now. What do we do now? And I realized I had no answer for them, because the only other thing that we had was, well, we have this program over here, but that's if your kid is really good. Well, how do we get there? Lessons. And sometimes whether it's finances or whatever, it's they don't want to take lessons. They still want some sort of developmental program first, before they realize, yeah, all right, it's worth the financial investment to take private lessons. So that's when I started creating different levels of development in between the beginner and the advanced. And that's when it turned into par is the beginner, birdie is the beginner intermediate, eagle is the intermediate growing into advanced, and then you have the elite program, advanced program.
So when did you come up with the pod system? Because I think that's interesting, and I think that's you can tell me like where the state of our instruction is now, because I know I've transferred from mostly private lessons into group coaching programs, but now I feel like it's almost going back to like private lessons,
right?
Or like a mixture of both, right? It's like where do you feel we are, and like where do you see? I know juniors is a little bit different. I'm talking probably more adults, but
right,
a little bit of both seems to kind of work. And that's where the pod system was really attractive, because I talked to you several times this spring about doing something at my club. And so describe a little bit of how that works for you, because I think that's really innovative.
Yeah, there's two separate programs. There's the Birdie program, which is basically the kids that are beyond the beginner phase. And so they're getting a little bit more into it. Maybe they're thinking of trying out for their high school team in a year or two or something like that. And they just want some more experience on the course or learning how to score better. And so that basically is just supervised practices for juniors. And then if they really get into it and they want lessons, then they can sign up for lessons with any of the instructors here. Now, the pod program is basically all of my students. What we do is I hold practices for them, supervised practices. So all of the kids get together, schedule permitting, and they're working on skill stations. And certain days we go out on the golf course. Like today we were out on the golf course, and we work on things on the course or at the practice facility. And what's happening in the pod practices is that the kids are practicing what they were learning in the lesson. So if, let's say, the pod practice is an hour and a half, 4 to 5:30, well, the kids are actually getting their private lessons during the practice.
Right.
So
like
what would happen?
Shuffling into your little station, right?
Right. So let's say it's a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And so Tuesday would be, let's say, Ryan, Ethan, and Mike's day for lessons. So Ryan's lesson would be at 4, Ethan's lesson would be at 4:30, Mike's lesson would be at 5. And what would happen is the other kids are practicing while I'm giving lessons. And then when the person is done with their lesson, they rotate back into the practice. And then the next kid comes in, and then I give them a lesson.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So they get personal attention, plus they get supervised practice kind of all in one.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I like it.
And what's also good is that if I'm giving a private lesson to someone and we're working on something that would benefit everyone, I would actually stop the practice and call everyone over and say, okay, Ashani and I are working on this, so I want you guys to watch this for the next 5 minutes. And we would do something, let's say it's chipping, brushing the grass with the bounce of the wedge or something like that. And it's like, do you see what she's doing and everything? And I would actually turn it around, and I would turn to the kids and say, what'd you think about that? How do you think she did over there with that shot? What do you think? You think that was okay? Is there anything else she needs to focus on? So I would sort of make them instructors, and they would become more involved. And that's something you know also is that if you turn it around where you tell the student, all right, you're my teacher, you teach me, that reinforces the learning.
Yeah, that's a great segue. I was going to ask you about that, because I've seen you do that where you make the kids teach the other kids, or make them teach you. And I do that occasionally. I'm like, all right, you give me a lesson. Tell me what I'm doing right. What am I doing wrong? What would you do?
Right.
Like, what's the value in that? And like you said, I think it makes it stick more, or do you think they just get more involved and pay attention better?
It's all of that, but also what it does for you, the teacher, is now you get to hear what they thought you said to them. Ah, yes. Which is really important.
Sure.
Because, you could be standing there and you're repeating the same thing over and over again, and you think the guy, the adult or the junior's got it, and then 5 minutes later saying, all right, can you show her what we just worked on? And then they're saying something totally different. And you're like, where'd you get that from? Well, that's what you told me. Isn't that what you meant by? And that's when you realize, okay, we got to go over that again, or I got to find a different way to say it.
Yeah, you got to see how your communication is coming through. That's really good.
Right.
Yeah. That's so cool. So
that helps out a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, if we kind of transition into elite juniors too, because everybody wants to hear the parent stories. as I have just transitioned from being a junior golf parent now into, my son's playing college golf now. So I was not the greatest junior golf parent, I'll admit. I was a much better coach than parent. And we've had these discussions. I'd call you and be like, man, you did this and that. Like, well, how did you talk to him? I'm like, and you're like, you can't say that to him. So talk about the importance of, I know you have parent meetings individually, and then you have group parent meetings.
Yep.
But talk a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of get into what makes a good junior golf parent, because I think that's a valuable lesson and some good information for the parents out there, but also for the kids.
Right. And I think we as instructors, we can comment and critique parents and say, oh, this dad or this mom was insufferable. They're ridiculous. They're an idiot. Sometimes we have to also remember that as bad as they were, they're coming from a parent's viewpoint.
Right.
I'm going to do anything possible for my kid. It may not be the right thing, but they're seeing it as like, I need to, this is for my kid. Now, what the motivation behind that might not be good. They might be living vicariously through their child, right? So we have to keep an eye on that. But I think educating the parents and letting them know how to talk to their kids, what to say, because some of the kids are very sensitive, and some of the kids are actually kind of like the feistiness, like the argumentativeness, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to match up, obviously, with the child. And I've seen parents that are, I'll look at them and I'll be just shaking my head, going, "No, don't do that. Please don't do that."
Yeah.
And I know it's tough, because again, this is one of those give advice to younger teachers is, I would say, remember, you're the expert. You're supposed to be the expert. And no, you're not going to yell at a parent and say, "You idiot, don't do that." But in a professional way, you would say, "I don't think that's the best way to go about doing it. I understand, Mr. Johnson, what you're trying to do, and your heart's in the right place. But I think what you got to do is you got to give your son or your daughter 30 minutes to just decompress, and just give them a pat on the back and say, hey, let's go get something to eat."
You're talking about
and
after the round, right?
Yeah,
that's always the toughest.
That's an example.
Yeah, and that was me, because I had a difficult job,
right,
because I was the coach and the parent. So I had a tough time taking the coach's hat off and just leaving him alone, and let him process it, and let him, finally figure it out. Well, he'll come to me and talk about it when he's ready. I want to talk about it right away. Yeah. So like, give me an example of like a conversation that you would want a parent to have with their kid after they've played poorly.
Yeah, I would just ask your child, did you have fun out there? And did you like the kids you were playing with? Did you get along with them? How are they doing? Cool. Okay. You hungry? What do you want? Let's go get some. I'm hungry. Let's get something to eat. Okay, let's go. And you just start the conversation or just start it that way. Because believe me, what the kids are thinking is, what's mom going to say? What's dad going to say? Mm-hmm. I mean, how many times have you seen a kid, they hit a bad shot, and the first thing they do is look over?
Yeah.
Right? What's the reaction?
Mm-hmm.
They either look at you as the coach, or they look at the parents. Right? So they're already calculating what the parental reaction is going to be. Oh, I'm going to get yelled at, I'm going to get smacked, I'm going to get beaten, or whatever it's going to be. And if you can just tell the kid, no, it's okay. Relax. We'll talk about it, but your life is not in danger right now.
Yeah. I hear you.
And that's something that I talk to the parents a lot about. And they get very anxious because they want immediate results. They see things in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
My son sculled 3 chips in a row. What's wrong? Well, what's wrong is the fact that he's only been playing for 3 weeks, and he just learned how to chip in the last lesson, and you know, let him make the mistake.
Right.
And I'll give them examples, like what's something I've done this where I've put one of the teaching baskets out about 10 feet away, and I've given the parent a golf ball, and I said, can you do me a favor? Here's 5 golf balls. Can you throw it in the basket? You're like, what? Can you throw it in the basket? And they throw it, and it's like sometimes 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5. And I'll look at them and say, like, how come you didn't get 5 out of 5? It's like, I guess I'm just not very good at it. Are you not very good at it, or you've just never done it before? Oh, I haven't done this since I was a kid. I said,
Yeah.
well, now you know how your child feels.
That sounds like Dennis Sales, right?
Yeah.
Turn it around on the parent. Hey, hit that putt. Well, you
Yeah.
left it short. Or you hit it too far.
What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you, man? Well, that's what you're telling your kid. That's what you're telling. I mean, that's what you're telling a kid right now.
See, Guru, it's like, you just got to get them out there, and you just got to tell them. It's like, that's it. This is the fine line, and you don't step over it.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. That's so good.
Sorry, Dennis.
No, that's all right. No, we love it. I mean, that's like he's the best because I mean he can just.
He is awesome.
He is so good at that. Yeah, dealing with the parents and. So, I mean, do you have a story without obviously naming names of like a difficult parent that you had to talk to in a situation?
Yeah, I have one. There was one time where we were doing a practice, and I set out, okay, we're going to start with chipping and putting, and then we're going to do this, and you're just going to take these 10 balls, you're going to work on this, and then we're going to move over here, whatever. So I was telling them what each station was. And I said, all right, let's go. Let's start. And the child went the other direction, picked up their driver, and started hitting their driver. And I was like, hey, come on back here. We're not hitting drivers yet. He says, but I need to work on my driver. Oh, no, we'll work on drivers. But remember what I said. We're going to start small. We're going to work our way to big. So let's come on over here. Let's start working on chips. And she just stayed there, hitting drivers. I said, come on. I said, we're going to hit driver. And then I got this is a 10-year-old kid.
Wow.
I got that.
Yeah.
She threw her driver down on the ground.
Oh my.
No problem. I'll let it go. Because she's actually a sweet child. So she walks over, picks up her wedge, goes over to the chipping station. And all the kids are kind of like, a couple of practice swings, chip, couple of practice. She just goes, bump, 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 bump. Pez dispenser. Bump, 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 bump. Out of balls. It's like, well, did you take practice swings? You were like, what were you trying to do? What was your focus on? I don't know. And so this was what was going on for about 30 minutes in the practice. And never raised my voice to her at all. And it just says, like, listen, there's got to be a focus to what you're doing. We're working on details. We're working on this. We're working on that. We're working our way to this. And we took a little 10-minute snack break. We'd go inside the snack bar, and I looked around, and she's not there. Like, where is she? Maybe she went to the bathroom. Still don't see her. And then I look down the hallway, and I see through the door outside that she's standing outside on her cell phone. So I kind of start walking over, and as I walk over, I could hear what she's saying. She's complaining. She's telling her mom that I'm yelling at her.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm embarrassing her, and I'm doing all of this stuff. And then I just opened the door. Come on, come back in here. And then she just kind of like looked at me, and she goes, okay. And then just went back to talking on the phone after I closed the door. And then when it's time to pick the kids up, the mom came over to me and said, I understand you were doing this and saying this. And I was like, no, I wasn't saying this at all. She called me and she said that you were doing this and you were telling this about her. And I said, this is what we were supposed to do. And what she didn't realize was that I was videotaping it.
Oh gosh.
Because I was taping the other kids to show the parents, this is what your kids were working on. So I just happened to catch all of this on my phone. And the mom was going off at me, and I said, and I went, Mrs.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I pulled out my phone, and I said, here it is, right here. And if you can show me where I was yelling or embarrassing your daughter, I would appreciate you pointing it out to me. And she looked at it and she looked at it and basically wouldn't believe the video and said, well, she called me and told me that you did this. So,
Oh my God.
and then she was out.
Wow.
She goes, I don't think this program is for her.
Okay.
And I said, no problem. You can, and she decided to take lessons with one of the other instructors instead. And I was like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. It's not for everybody.
And actually, yeah. And one of the other kids came up to me the next week and just was like, thank God she's out of here.
Yeah. It's ruining the group.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
So, and it happens on occasion, but I think when you start to, I think what also, good advice for young teachers is if you have the reputation that you care about the development of the kids, you will get those kind of kids and those kind of parents that are happy that you're almost willing to be a third parent.
Right.
That you have the mentality of a parent, because they'll say like, oh, you understand what I'm thinking. Thank you so much. And the parents that are looking for you to turn their kids into the next Tiger Woods, that either they will change because you're educating them, or they won't be there for you. They won't be your headache anymore. They'll go somewhere else, which has happened as well.
So how's our boy Arlen doing?
Arlen he's hysterical.
So tell the listeners, they don't know who we're talking about probably unless they follow you on social.
Yeah.
The kid that you're teaching, it's just incredible. Like
Yeah.
tell us how you met and then sort of how it is to work with a great kid like that.
Yeah, Arlen is 5 years old.
Yeah, we
And
talk about him like he's 12,
Yeah, he's 5 years old going on 35. And he showed up one day, and his parents are not golfers, and they said, like, we don't know what to do. We figure he just needs to get on the golf course, but we don't play, so we don't know what to do. Can you help us out? And yeah, I'm a little jaded doing this for a long time. It's like, here's another parent telling me how great their kid is, and oh yeah, how old is your son? Oh, at this time he's 4. Oh yeah, okay, sure, yeah. Sure, I'll see him. And he comes in and he's got his clubs and he walks up to the tee line and he's hitting balls. And I watched him. I was like, oh, this kid looks like a mini tour player.
Right.
He's putting on his glove and he's, with the Velcro, he's like pulling it like this. And he's looking out on the range and he's putting a stick on the ground. He takes a couple of practice swings, walks behind the ball, holds the club out. And I'm thinking, no, it's just because he sees it on TV. So he's mimicking what he sees. Mm-hmm. And he's doing all this stuff and he takes a couple of practice swings and hits the ball and everything like that. And so I started asking him questions, typical, like, so what's your favorite color? What's your favorite foods and everything like that? And he's just kind of looking at me, and then he hits a ball to the right or something like that. And I said, why do you think that happened? And he looks at me and he goes, because the club is pointed over there.
Oh, jeez. He's 5.
He's 5.
I've got 40-year-olds that don't know that.
And I was like, I almost said out loud, holy shit.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he hits another one. And I saw that it's like he either hit it off the heel or something like that. I said, so Arlen, do you know where you hit that one? And he points to the club and he goes, there.
Oh my God. And you're pointing to the heel of the club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, okay. And then he had a couple lessons, and then I mentioned to the parents, I said, hey, I have this group of kids about a little bit older than Arlen, but he can join in, and we go out every Saturday and we go on the golf course. So Arlen would fit in. So he joins us. So I get to see him on the golf course, and it was like watching a little pro. He went through the whole thing, a pre-shot routine, and aiming, couple of practice swings, everything, lining himself up, and he hit the ball and he played great. And the best thing about it is when I got him on the putting green, he just knew how to putt. He just understood speed.
That's crazy.
He would hit a ball, he would have a 10-foot putt, and he would hit it 5 feet past. And I would say, so what happened there? He goes, hit it too hard. So what do you need to do? Make it smaller.
Wow.
Right? And then he would go up to the 5-footer, do his whole routine, and knock it in. And I was like, oh, lucky first. He would do that every time. Hit it 3 feet past, knock it in. Hit it 5 feet past, knock it in. Hit it 7 feet past, knock it in.
So where
make a 15-footer.
Do you think that was just him mimicking, copying, like we talked about? I mean, like kids do. I mean, if his parents didn't play, like he had to have a model.
And it's.
I mean, did you find out a bit from the parents, how did he get introduced to the game? I mean,
yeah, he took a couple of lessons prior at a local driving range, and that's what the parents were saying. It's that the teacher said that try to get him out on the golf course more.
Mm-hmm.
So he recommended me. He said him to me, and so just getting him out on the golf course and just watching him evolve on the golf course and understanding. And the thing is he doesn't know what the bounce of a wedge is, but he understands that the club has to slide, that it doesn't dig in. So it's interesting just to watch him figure things out on his own, and just all I'm doing is putting guidelines on what he's doing and saying, okay, look at this, look at that, be in this situation, be in that situation, and what would you do? And so he's kind of figuring it out. And what I found out later on as I got to know him better is that he's interested in languages.
Really?
He's interested in foreign languages. So he's actually, I don't know if he's fluent in any languages, but it's an interest. It's like somebody being interested in crossword puzzles.
Wow. Just a little phenom.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's gonna be fun to watch him grow, because
yeah,
he's a social media influencer already at 5. Everybody's asking about what's going on with Arlen.
I got a message from Chris Como. Who's Arlen?
Really?
I was like, when I get that, it's like, you've made it big time.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. All right, so I know you don't just teach juniors, so let's talk about adult teaching as well. So who and I know you've got, your story, it continues because you have so many certifications. Who are some of your influences, coming through the ranks? We've all been, to seminars, and
yeah.
you do probably more education than most. Talk a little bit about that, and then we can give some advice to the young coaches out there as well. But just talk a little bit about what you've done, your certifications, who you've learned from.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to several. I think the TPI ones were really influential on me early on, and they actually gave me the incentive to really take the junior programs, for instance, and do some different things, put fitness into it, play games within it, that it's not just pour out a bucket of balls and make the kids hit balls, do things, do developmental things, skills competition, skills games. And that's just juniors, and taking that to adults as well, and understanding, and going back to fencing, it's understanding what the body's doing. And when I would go to the TPI seminars, some of the stuff was like, oh, I remember that. We would do that for fencing, and fencing's more linear, but a lot of the ground reaction force stuff was very similar.
Mm-hmm.
What else was there? There's Henry Brunton and Rick Jensen's coaching program. That's very good if you're looking at doing group programs. Stack and Tilt, I think, is really, really good for instructors to be a part of, because to understand what it is to have a system in place, that you're not just walking up and just kind of throwing things up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy and Mike, they're brilliant at what they do. Excellent program. It's one of those things where you may not agree with it, but you can't argue how influential it is in your development as an instructor, that you will always be using pieces of it in your teaching, even if you disagree with it.
Yep, 100%. I'm right there in that camp.
And I did, there's also David Orr's flat stick putting.
Right.
That's mind blowing, that there could be that much involved in putting.
Oh yeah.
Aim point.
Yeah.
Right. Aim point is revolutionary. It's just, that makes you feel like you're a good putting coach, if nothing else.
Yeah. If you can actually teach people how to read the green, that gives them, at least you can look like you know something, right?
Like I just gave a playing lesson this morning, and I showed the guy a little bit of it, and he was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
It's like, really, that I just showed him how to use his feet. It was
Yeah.
very like 5 minutes, and he realized afterwards, oh, now I know why I was missing so many short putts. And what else have I done?
Swing catalyst.
Swing catalyst.
Yeah, I know you've been
swing
with,
catalyst,
with
body
Dunn
track.
again. Yeah, body track.
Yep. And yeah, my advice to people is just go to as many of these as you can, right? Within, if your budget allows. And because if the more educated you are, the better an instructor, the better information you're going to be providing for your students. And no, you know what? There's going to be all of this information. You are not just turning it around and telling everyone what you just found out. Your job is to be the strainer. You're getting all of this information, and your job is to simplify it to a point where the person in front of you can understand it and improve their game or their swing or whatever it is you're working on.
Yeah, and you're involved with 4D as well.
Yep, 4D motion.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. And the 3D's really becoming popular now.
Yeah, it's becoming very popular. I mean, 4D motion is 3D, and with the sensor system, and it's mobile. You can take it out on the golf course if you want. You can use as little as 2 or 3 sensors to do some stuff. You can also do live biofeedback training with it, which is what I use it mostly for in this time of the year. Wintertime, when we're indoors, I'll do more some of the 3D stuff, but this time of the year I'm doing biofeedback training. And it's great because you're getting that external feedback, which in my opinion that just accelerates the learning curve.
Yeah. So how would you consider your style? Like if somebody came to you for a lesson, like what would that look like? Like how would you describe your style of teaching? Let's just say with an adult.
With an adult, I'm trying to kind of like get into their brain to see what it is they're looking for and what I call the truth and the real truth. And the truth is what they're telling me, and the real truth is what probably is actually going to happen. And the truth that they're telling me is, I'll do anything. I'm willing to work hard. I'm willing. Like if you tell me I'm willing to start over again, and if you tell me I got to break it down and redo things, I'll do it. And the real truth is,
practice once a week, maybe play once a week.
Yep. How many kids do you have? What's your job?
Yeah.
And how much time do you have to dedicate to it? And it's like, well, I gave you a lesson 2 weeks ago. Have you practiced? No, you haven't. Okay. Is this pretty indicative of this person going forth? Yes, it is. So listen, you have a 20-yard left to right ball flight with your driver off the tee. Let's go out and play a few holes so I can teach you how to aim left so you can hit the ball in the fairway. And that's when you find out, aren't you supposed to aim to the center of the fairway? Not when the fairway's 35 yards wide and you have a 20-yard slice. So,
oh gosh,
aim left, hit your shot. Oh, you're a genius.
Yeah. Commitment is a big deal, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And
figuring that out.
There's something that I'm thinking about writing called the first 30 seconds. And the first 30 seconds is what we as a teacher are ascertaining about the person that's standing in front of us and reading their body language. Where are their eyes? Are they making eye contact, or are they not connecting with you? Does it seem like they don't want to be there, that they're being forced to be there, that it was a gift certificate? And they're just doing it because the expiration date is coming up or something like that, or are their intentions really to improve their game?
Yeah, I think that's huge, and we've talked a lot about that on this podcast. Is the EQ part of it? The bedside manner and the body language and reading and asking questions. I mean, how do you develop that? Was there any books that you read, or was it something that just came from experience and just paying attention?
I think it's just experience and paying attention, and some of it is intuition. Right. Some of it is actually talking to my dad, who's a college professor. Right. I mentioned that already. He would tell me things about being an educator and what he would see in students. And like I mentioned earlier, I was the kid who always wanted to sit next to the coach and hear the coach's stories, right? And so I would hear it not just from my dad, but from other people. I was always intrigued by those kind of stories. And it just trying to see how that carries over is, I'm trying to find the words for it.
Yeah.
But I'll figure it out in a second. But
yeah, and I think it's a tough question. Like I get that all the time. It's just, I think a lot of it's instinct, but the only way I can describe it is good coaches just pay attention.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
just
paying attention.
That could mean a lot of things, but it's, when you ask and I always, I've been drilled. It's been drilled into me from one of my mentors, Dana Rader, of asking the right questions. That's just that's part of it, but it's also actually paying attention to the answers and then being able to apply that to something you're going to do in the future, right? I mean, that's a skill.
Exactly.
It's a skill in itself, I think. And it's not easy to do, but it's just a matter of practice and repetition, just like anything else.
And I think what it also requires is a certain sense of both sympathy and empathy.
Absolutely.
From the person, is understanding what the person in front of you is going through.
Yeah.
Whether you've experienced something similar yourself or you understand what they're going through. And what I found out is you were asking me about reading stuff, and I would start to read material on it, and what was great about it was it would confirm that I was on the right track.
Sure.
So sometimes what would happen is I wouldn't complete reading the book because it was telling me, you know what you're doing. You're on the right track. You just keep doing what you're doing.
And it gives you confidence that you're actually doing good things.
And I think asking the right questions, like you said, and what you start to realize as you give more lessons is when you start to ask certain questions, the people tell you, no one's ever asked me that again before.
Right.
So what you thought you took for granted as, oh, this is just a typical question that every teacher would ask, you realize, no, everyone isn't asking it. And the question I remember I would always ask is, do you have any prior injuries, specifically to your shoulders, your elbows, your joints, your knees? Do you have any back injuries, anything, any operations? And they would start, at first you get the person like, no, nothing wrong. And then halfway in the lesson, oh yeah, there was that rotator cuff surgery that I had.
Right. Yeah, they never answered. Yeah, or you get the one that's like, yeah, I just had knee surgery, but it doesn't affect my swing.
Right.
Like they think just because they're not in pain any longer that it doesn't affect their swing. But that's up to us to figure out. It's changed. Like your body's changed significantly, and how is that going to affect what we're trying to do?
And what I've followed up with is when we're working on something, if that makes you antsy about pain or you feel pain, your job is to throw up a red flag right there and stop me before we go any further. Because if that's going to endanger your well-being, we'll find another way to do this.
That's a great
Don't
question.
worry about it.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And I remember I would get more people telling me what I really like about our lesson was that you asked me those questions.
Sure.
And the other one was, what sports have you played in the past? But sometimes it's nothing more like if you have someone who has a teenage son very similar to Nicholas's age, for instance, and you kind of sense that they're having problems with their relationship. Maybe it's just person going through those teen years, those teen angst years. It's sometimes I won't ask. What I'll do is I'll start talking to them about, I was talking to my son the other day, and it's funny, he's such a good kid, but I noticed that he was having he was acting this way, and so I just asked him, and it turned out he was not doing so well in this and everything like that. And sometimes instead of asking, because people get embarrassed if you ask them.
Sure.
But now that I've broached the subject with my own experience, they'll suddenly turn around. Oh, I tell you what, James, you know what? I was same thing with my kid the other day, boom, 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 and then all of a sudden you can see the volcano of emotions and what they were holding in come out. Not that they're crying, but they're just relieved. And then they're more open to whatever you have to give them in terms of the golf lesson, the simple golf lesson. And then they come back later and like, boy, that lesson was awesome. It really helped me.
Well, you connected with the person, not just the student.
yeah, you were their therapist instead of their teacher.
Exactly. Super important, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, is now you've gained their trust.
Yep.
Now they're an empty cup, or more of an empty cup, and you can start to fill it with, what you need to do. I always say,
right.
That, it's a cat-kicking world.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't know what's happened to that individual prior to when they walk through your door.
Right.
It's your job to figure it out. How was their day at work? What's going on with their family? Not that you got to be super personal, but if you do ask the right questions and you're soft enough, they will start to tell you, and then you can help them quicker.
And that's something, going back to the early years with juniors, I was not good at. It's kids may have had a bad day at school, and they would show up and they'd be sulky and moody, and I'd be like, "Hey, get your head out of your ass. Let's go. Let's come on."
Yeah.
And nowadays, I realize I'd see that, and I'm like, "Hey, everything go okay at school today?" They're like, "Oh, I'll tell you what. Yeah, you know what? Let's just do some light chipping. We'll do some putting or whatnot, and that way you don't have to tax you. We'll just and then they kind of get more into it and like, yeah, can we hit driver now? Sure, okay, let's hit driver. All right, now we're going to get into what we were doing.
Yeah, that's really good.
But
I had a kid this morning or actually this afternoon, one of my regular kids, and he just seemed a little off, and it wasn't bad. It was just like he wasn't as focused. He's 10. How focused are they going to be? They're going to have some space, some spacey moments.
Right.
And I said, I just started asking him, like, hey, how was your day? What's going on? I said, you seem like you're just a little tired. And he goes, yeah, I'm a little bit tired. I'm okay. I said, what'd you do? Well, you just got back from a big field trip. That's cool, right? And they were rock climbing and doing all this stuff. I'm like, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I mean, let's chill and just hit a few shots, and then we end early, and then you can go get some rest. It was, but I wouldn't, if I would have been hard on him and go, what's going on, man? Why are you hitting the ball and like falling down? It's just like it wasn't his fault. He was just tired. I mean, shoot.
Yeah, it's true. It's in just being able to perceive those kind of nuances in a person's personality or experiences that they're going through. It's so important, especially if you're working with juniors.
Yeah, no doubt. So, any more advice to the young coaches? I mean, I think everybody has their own deal, and of course we're older, so it's kind of like the landscape has changed so much because of the internet and in the way you get information. I'm trying to like continue to adapt, because I tell my guys, I'm like, you're not going to do it the way I did it. I did with it what was available. I read a lot of books.
Right. You
don't have to read it. You don't have to read books as much now. You can find papers on the internet. You can read this, watch videos. It's more visual now. I mean, if a young coach asks you for advice of like how they're going to get better at teaching, like what are the main points?
I think a couple of them. One would be, I just saw my picture. I look like Stephen Hawking.
Put your head cocked aside.
One would be, don't be afraid to attend seminars. I know some of them are pricey, so you have to be realistic about your budget. But there are several good seminars I would attend, and you'll get a lot of education out of that. But definitely what I would also do is observe good teachers. Watch them teach if they'll let you. I mean, obviously, we've heard dozens of people on your podcast, they say the same thing. And contact them.
Yeah.
Ask them if it's okay and be professional about it. Don't be like, hey, I was wondering if I can come by.
Right. Yeah.
Yo, it's all right if I chill.
Yeah.
You can chill, you just won't be in the teaching area.
Yeah.
It's fine. But yeah, just send them a nice letter saying, is it all right? And work that out. And also come prepared to ask questions. Observe, prepare to ask questions. And one other thing, do not interrupt or interfere with the lesson.
Amen. Don't get.
I've heard you talk about that.
Yeah, don't get in the teaching bubble.
Yep.
That's what I always tell the guys. They're like, all right, you can stay in here. This is kind of where I'm going to be, and don't interrupt. And because a lot of times I'll include them in the lesson if I feel like it's appropriate,
right,
and have the right student that's not going to mind. But other than that, you're right. Just don't talk. Take notes. Maybe bring bring something to write on. That always looks good.
Right. And I've done the same thing. It's like I would be giving a lesson, someone's watching me, and I'll turn around and I will just say, "What do you think?"
Yeah.
Be honest. What do you think about what I just did? Right in front of the student. And we say, "Don't be shy. It's okay." Or I'll say, "What would you do in this circumstance?"
Ooh.
And and then they would give me their ideas, and if I liked it, I would say, that's not bad. Let's see what happens.
Right.
Or I would say something, we tried that already, so that's a good point. We did that about a month ago, and so they're on to this now. So I like what you said, because I'm not trying to take a young teacher and go, "You suck, go back and read some books."
No. Not at all.
But I want them to realize that part of the education is that I want them to be involved with the process. But there is a border to that where I will say, "What do you think about that? Do you have any questions?" And I remember going over to Butch Harmon's place years ago and observing him giving lessons, and he did the same thing. He'd turn around and he goes, "You got that? You understand? Sure, no problem. Yeah, you got any questions?" And I would ask a question, and you go like, "Oh, it's a good question." He would give me an answer, and
Yeah.
that Butch Harmon trip filled my head like I thought I was the man after that. But yeah, do something like that. Definitely, just observe, ask questions, contact people.
I think, and I think that's what I would add too, is when you go to the seminars, it's seek out the people that you want to talk to. You know what I mean? Like the hallway talks, I think, are important, right? So, but you got to have some balls and say, "I'm going to go approach this person," and
right,
and they'll be okay with that. I'm honored when a young coach comes up to me and says, "Hey, seen your work, I got a question."
Yep.
Right? But you got to have a little guts to do that. But I think that's where you can learn the most, is creating those relationships. And it's never been easier with social media now.
Oh, definitely.
Right? You can contact people, DM them and, ask them questions and say, "Hey, can I get you on the phone?" or whatever, we're busy, but I mean, we're going to do our best to make that happen. So, I mean, that's kind of the sidebar.
Definitely. I don't be afraid of, because the worst thing that's going to happen is the person say, "Sorry, I don't allow people to observe me." Okay.
Right.
Then what you do is you just go to the next name on your list.
Yep.
Because it's not like you would have a list of 100 names and maybe you'll get one person saying, "Sure, come on by." If you have a list of 100 names, you're probably going to get a minimum of 50, "Sure, come on by." Yes, no problem. And I mean, I remember the same thing, going back to the Butch Harmon thing. I just sent him an email, and it was just a lark. It's just like, I'm going to send him a fan email. I'm never going to hear from him, but like, "Thank you for being such a great coach and an inspiration. I really appreciate everything you've done, and I try to listen to everything that you do," that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
I was like, I sent it off by email, no problem. 15 minutes later, I look at my email, and it says Butch Harmon School of Golf. And I check it out, and it's from his assistant, and she goes, "Showed your email to Butch. He'd love to have you come by."
Yeah, that's great.
And I was like, whoa.
Flattery always works, man.
Right. What's the catch? How much do I have to pay? I wrote, how much do I have to pay? And like, what's anything? And she goes, "Oh, no. Just go on the website, see the calendar of when we have golf schools, 2-day and 3-day golf schools. Pick one, and you're welcome to join us." And that's how it happened. And then I showed up, and the staff was amazing. Matt Kilgariff was one out on the West Coast. He was there. Sean Callahan was there. I mean, they were just great. And I remember one of the stipulations was you can't observe him when he's giving a PGA Tour Pro lesson.
Oh, really?
Hey, I'm not there to get an autograph. I'm not there to take pictures or get autographs. So no problem. And later on, as I stayed there, he was working with one pro, and one of the assistants said, "He's going to go work with this guy. You want to come and watch?" And I said, "Oh, I think I'm not allowed to." And he goes, "No, we know you now. You can come."
Yeah, that you're not going to be in the way or whatever.
And it was kind of cool, because I stood there and he had turned around and he was doing wedge practice, and he goes, "You understand that, James?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I understood that perfectly." He goes, "You have any questions?" And I asked him something about grip pressure. And his comment to me was, "Guys like you and me understand that. And when the minute he said you and me, I was like, that's right.
Yeah, that's
me
right.
and Butch.
Yeah, number one and number two in the world. I love it.
Yeah. So
That's great. But that's why he's great. You know, I mean, he made you feel special.
Yeah.
You know, and that's awesome. And then you got a great story.
And the side part is the next day I go into his office and he calls me and we're talking and stuff and he pulls out this thing and he goes, yeah, this is like a little teaching thing manual that I have and he says, let me autograph it for you. You can have it. I want you to have it. Right. And I was like, oh my God, Butch Harmon's giving me his like staff manual. And we're talking and he like signs and goes, Butch Harmon. And he goes, oh yeah. And he goes, what's your name again?
Ah, no. Butchie. That's all right. He was embarrassed to ask you again. That's all.
Yeah, that was like that big to like.
Oh, that's okay.
And he laughed afterwards. He goes, I'm sorry. I don't know why I couldn't remember your name.
Oh, that's great. Oh my gosh. So what do you think? Like what do you think the state of our instruction business is right now? Do you think we're moving in a good direction?
I think the opportunities for education is moving in a good direction. Whether people are taking advantage of it, that's up to the people. Yeah. There are some people that, and it's across the board with regards to age. You could be a 65-year-old teacher and 75-year-old teacher and going, you know what? Let me find out about these forces and torques and so I can understand things better. Or you can sit there and go like, I've been doing the same thing for 50 years and it's worked well, yeah. Which is fine. If you've been successful with it and you feel like you can continue to do that, that's good. And if you're busy, then keep doing it. I have no qualms about that. It's the person who won't look into that, and at the same time complains about how the business is bad because they only give 5 lessons a week and they can't survive on that.
Right. They're not trying to better themselves.
Right.
Yeah. So you're a moderator on arguably the biggest forum on Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's like, where are you on the lay down craze? What's
you know what's funny is that
or the Alpha Wars, either one if you want.
It's somebody will say something and I'll be like, oh, that's a great point. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And then somebody else 5 minutes later will come up with a point that shows how stupid that was, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's true. And like the other day, the whole thing about Brian Manzella putting that stuff about the turn and how it visually looks like it's shaft layoff, but actually it's just and I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. I like that. Good visual, Brian. And then other people going like, well, you see that's this is constant back and forth, and so you're wondering, am I just too quick to accept what I'm seeing, or should I be looking a little bit more into it before I hit the like button?
Yeah, you got to be careful which one you like, because you get they look at that stuff. Yeah, heard you do a pretty good Brian Manzella, don't you? You gonna give us a little of that?
Well, I don't know, but I'm very happy to be back on your show again. But all these people are just
it's not laying down.
It's not lay down. It's not lay down. I just got to look at it. It's not a lay down. For crying out loud, these people just got to understand. And it's like doing the impressions and stuff. It's not meant to insult people or make fun of them. It's showing their uniqueness, their characteristics, and how they stand out. I mean, part of the
compliment,
reason,
man, I think.
Yeah, part of the reason why someone like Brian stands out is because of that. That if he was on a teaching line with 20 other teachers, he would stand out, right? And for a lot of people, hey, I like that guy, because there's something about him that's unique. Yeah,
it's good to see. It's good to see Joe Mayo back on Facebook.
Oh man,
give me a little Mayo. I know, I love that guy.
You know what's funny? I can't do Mayo anymore.
You had the best. The mannerisms. You got the mannerisms with the voice.
You know that's the thing. The imitations, the vocal imitations are one thing, but it's the mannerisms. Yeah. Where, Yeah, and again, this is a podcast, so you don't see it, but it's
Yeah.
that's the thing where I really, and again, it's that being able to observe people as an instructor and see what they're doing, the nuances that they're doing in their movement patterns. It's the same thing watching how do they stroke their hair, or do they touch their ear or their nose or something.
You were working on a Como, I thought, at one point.
Yeah, I've got Como.
All right, let's
I've got Chris Como.
Give us a little.
No, I mean,
swing
I
adventures.
can't get his voice yet, but I've got his mannerisms, right? So, I mean, people can't see it, but they.
Oh yeah, the crossing the arms, head tilted to the side,
bent to the side, nodding, and with a very serious stare. And so, what you're saying is,
love it.
And I got to work on Cameron McCormick, because
that'd be a good one.
He's just a linguistic stylist.
Oh,
he has his own way.
Beautiful language. Like I could listen to him talk for hours.
He has verbiage that's just, he'll say something like...
it's way over my redneck self, but I love to listen to him.
The preferred focal point of impact, something like that. And you go like, oh my God, that's just beautiful. And then you realize he's talking about the sweet spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh. And
it's like, the movement pattern of the preferred focal point of impact is, wow. Oh wait, he's talking about the sweet spot of the club, and where you're hitting the ball. Is it on the toe or on the heel?
Yeah.
But,
I think my favorite moment last year's PGA show was when you did Mark Blackburn in front of Mark Blackburn, my boy. I love Mark. I always said it's like if I had Mark Blackburn's voice, I would be a lot more successful, because he's so eloquent in the way he explains things is amazing. You got to give me you're still going to get in the top 100, I promise.
See, Guru, all my players, I take them and my members, I put them through a screen, because we need to see the movement patterns. He's going to kill me.
No, he's going to love it. I promise.
Hong, you've got no shot now.
Oh, 0. Yeah.
But it's true, because I've heard him speaking on your podcast and a couple others, and it's just, I just want to hit repeat over and over again.
So good. Yeah. I mean, he's brilliant.
It's funny with the voices too, because like we do this clinic every year at our place for about 50 women, and it's for women in business, and it's called so you've never been in an outing. So it's showing these women, it's a clinic, instructional clinic on, and don't be afraid to be a part of an outing and what to do and what it's like to be in an outing. And so what happens is there's groups of women, and we're in each station, could be chipping, for instance, and so they're with us for 30 minutes and they rotate to the next station and we come around. So there was one year where each group of women that came in, I did a different voice.
I love it.
So it was like one group comes in and like, how y'all doing? Awesome. Y'all having a good time? Okay, so today, ladies, we're going to be doing some chipping. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our feet close together. We're going to put the ball in the middle of our stance. We're going to brush the ground with the bottom of the club. Make sure your weight's a little bit to the left, all right? Now, don't pay attention to anything your boyfriends, your husband said to you. You got it? All right? And they're like, ah. And then the next group comes in. Hello, ladies. How are you? So today we're going to be doing chipping. We're going to have our feet close together. We're going to have the ball position in the middle. You're going to put the ball, don't put it back in your stance.
Don't, whatever you do.
And then the next group comes in. Yo, how you doing? So listen, we're going to be doing some chipping, all right? So what we're going to... And you can see, by the time I got to the fourth group, the women are looking around going, wait, I thought he was from... Wait, here's...
An Asian, country Asian. I love it.
I mean, it was just, I just did a different voice with each group. We had there was 5 groups that came around. I did 5 different voices, and the 5th one was my regular voice. I remember one woman was like, why are you so boring to us?
You had to make up another, you got to get another impression in the repertoire. Oh my gosh. That's insane.
Oh, it's fun.
Oh yeah. It's always fun, my man.
And that's my goal, to be the Robin Williams of golf instruction.
Hey, you got to make it fun, even for the adults.
That was probably the best compliment I ever got from a student. It's like getting a lesson from Robin Williams. That's probably like about 6-7 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I was going nuts that day. I was just too much coffee, and just the kids were just making me nuts, and I started doing the what's that scene in oh my God, I forgot the movie that Robin Williams did with Nathan Lane.
The
Birdcage.
Birdcage, yeah.
Where he does the dance.
Oh yeah.
Right. He was do Martha Graham, Madonna. I started doing like the golf instructor version of something like that. It's like, we're gonna chip this way, and then we're gonna do whatever we want. We're gonna, and I started doing it with different voices and rolling around on the grass and moving my body. And one of the kids just said, "It's like getting a lesson from Robin Williams."
Oh my gosh.
I was just impressed he knew who it was.
That's beautiful. So, has there ever been like a roadblock in your career that you can remember that set you up for later success? Any stories, or like a favorite failure, as I call it?
Yeah, I think a favorite failure was when probably 9/11, because where I was working at the time at Clearview Golf Course, we had a lot of firemen that would play at our golf course, and so it's not just the disaster of what happened, but it's the fact that suddenly a lot of people just weren't there anymore, that you would see regularly. And then what would happen is the economy wasn't good, is people didn't know what was going on. So golf is a leisure sport. Suddenly no one was coming out for golf lessons. And I remember sitting there, and I think my weekly income was like $200 at most. And sitting there going like, I can't survive like this, and I have to do something. And I think that was one of the times where I started realizing you can't just be satisfied with what you're doing. You have to always search to be better. What is it I can do? What can I do to make people come out? What can I do to make people feel at ease being here? Mm-hmm. Because people, actually, another thing that was happening, people were feeling guilty if they were going to come out and play golf and have fun at a time like that.
I could see that, yeah.
And so just catering to that and making people understand, hey, you know what? Don't feel guilty that you're coming here for a golf lesson or you're coming here to play. If anything, it's an escape from reality, that you can take your mind off of your worries for half an hour, or 2 hours on the golf course and just enjoy yourselves. And don't be guilty that you're enjoying yourself in that period of time, because you need it. And it made me much more business savvy of what I was doing, and made me realize some of the shortcomings. I was just assuming and relying that people were going to come. Mm-hmm. And I realized, no, you've got to give them a reason to come. And that was one.
Do you remember any tactics or any strategies that you had to make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about was that people will not spend money on themselves, but they'll spend money on their kids. So I started making bigger junior programs, but I didn't want people to I didn't want to do it just so I can get money from them. I wanted them to understand that you're spending money for your kids, but when your kids are here with me, their minds are not worried about other things. They're going to have fun. They're going to enjoy themselves. Mm-hmm. We're going to do things here that'll take their mind off of what's been happening in the world the last couple of years or the last few months. And that, one of the things I always believed in is if you're successful at providing a good program, then you don't have to worry about revenue, because people will come. So I never looked at it as, how much did I make this week? How much did I make this week? What's my paycheck? It's, no, create a program where the kids will feel safe, and the parents will appreciate the work that you're doing for their kids and for them, and they will come. And that was something that it was interesting in that I made it fun for them, but going back to the advanced kids, they would sometimes say to me, it's like, how come you're having so much fun with them, but you don't do that with us?
Ah.
Right? And my answer was, because you kids are serious. You guys want to be pros. You guys want to be college players. You have to realize that it's serious work out there. And that's where I was an asshole. Right? And I should have realized that, no, you know what? They're absolutely right. I should be doing this for them as well.
Yeah. You can't make it a job that early in their life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think another failure was when I had several good players, juniors, and then all of a sudden they all left. And it wasn't a case of that they hated me so much, there's like, enough of this, I'm leaving. It was just a case of someone just coming in and saying, hey, you should check out my teacher. You might like him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. That was one incident. I mean, we all go through that.
Yeah.
That's part of the business.
It happens to everybody. It's hard. It's difficult to handle because you take it personally.
Yeah.
But you just can't. Yeah. It just happens.
And there was one time where I was at a tournament, a junior tournament, and I had taken a few kids to it, and there was one girl there who was Korean, and the mom was there with her, and the girl kept looking over at me because I was teaching a couple other Korean kids and I was speaking in English. So the mom came over to me at one point and said, "You're Korean, right?" "Yeah." He's like, "How come you're teaching in English? Why aren't you teaching Korean?" And I said, "Oh, because, I don't think my Korean is good enough or appropriate enough. I can speak informally, but I can't speak formally like an instructor or an adult. And I can't speak clearly enough to get my point across. So I speak in English, which is my native language. And they're all American-born Koreans too, so they understand perfectly what I'm saying." Right? Because apparently her daughter was saying, "See, why can't I take lessons from someone like that speaks English? Why do I have to take lessons from someone that only speaks Korean?"
Mm.
But then what happened was it turned out that person knew people in New York and said to them, "That guy hates being Korean." And so she turned it around and said, it's that the reason why he speaks in English is because he's ashamed of being Korean.
Oh my gosh.
And so what happened is I lost a lot of Korean students as a result of that.
Hmm.
So that was very tough.
Yeah. They're lost, man. I'm sure they figured that out. That's crazy. So what do you do? What do you do if you ever get stressed out? You ever get overwhelmed? Anything? Any new tactics or go-tos that help you get back on track? Get back to your old self, your happy self.
Yeah, actually, I'll work out, believe it or not. Stress relief. I've been building a lot of Legos.
Yes, you have.
A ton of Legos. I'm into that now. And actually, we talked about this. I actually sing in my car a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's funny because I used to listen to your podcast and a few others religiously. Used to. That sounds bad.
Wow, you just dropped me like that. I can't believe it.
And I would listen to your podcast driving to work and then coming home from work. And then what I started doing was singing in the car. And that helped my voice a lot. And that just kind of was a stress relief. So what I notice now is I don't listen to anything other than these 4 or 5 songs that I just sing to on the way home and on the way to work and on the way home. And it's actually been a great stress relief. So now what happens is I listen to your stuff and other stuff either early in the mornings when I'm having breakfast or late at night when I come home for dinner, after dinner.
So I'm back in the playlist. What's on your phone? What's on your playlist? What music do you like?
Some old music. I have like a Beatles playlist. I have some music that makes me think about when I was younger. I'm going through my 5th childhood right now. So there's a lot of stuff like old Elvis Costello what else is there? What
are the songs that you're singing?
The Smiths.
Oh, the Smiths. Okay. That's solid.
I'll sing Allison from Elvis Costello.
Okay.
And I sing, Kirk's going to kill me. I sing one Japanese song. He's going to laugh his ass off. and I sing one Korean song too. So it's that. Those are my main 3 songs that I sing over and over again.
Okay. And that kind of relaxes you and just gets you.
Yeah, it relaxes me.
Takes you to a different place.
Yeah. And it's just because I just like the songs and what the lyrics are about. So like the Korean song, it's a love song. So it makes me think about my wife. Oh,
that's awesome.
And, so, and Allison is just, I've always been a huge Elvis Costello fan. So, and that's one of my favorite songs from him. And that's something that if I ever did karaoke, I would probably do that.
Oh, that's definitely going to happen. PGA show.
Oh yeah.
We'll get Kirk up there.
Yeah. Kirk's awesome. If you haven't heard Kirk sing.
Oh, I have. Yeah. It's really
a treat.
Good.
Yeah.
Really good. He's so talented. Guitar and can sing.
It's amazing how many people come up to me and go like, "Hey, Kirk, how's it going?"
Thank you, Kirk. Yeah. You guys are...
It's unbelievable. I just had a guy come up to me the other day and do that, and it's like, you got to be kidding me.
Oh my gosh, that's great. All right, so if you had a gigantic billboard, you could get a message out to the world, billions of people, what would your billboard say? And why? It could be a quote, mantra, saying from the words of James Hong. Lay it on me.
One thing I tell the juniors that I teach is fail gloriously.
I love that. Yeah, you've
Just
told me that
fail
before.
gloriously. Yeah. Don't be afraid of failure because that's the only way you're going to get better. Fail gloriously. It's like if you're going to go down, singing the national anthem or something like that at the top of your lungs. Don't, because if you fail because you were afraid, it's nothing but regret afterwards. I should have done this more. I should have done that better.
That's beautiful. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to talk about? Anything that we haven't covered? We've got time.
No, I think the fact that people now realize that I do teach adults.
Absolutely, yeah. I wanted to make sure we got
that on the range. Yeah, the guy on the range last year. I think I told you the story about how he was doing some crazy stuff on the range, and I was telling him about a couple other things, and he goes, "Well, what do you know? You teach 4-year-olds."
Ouch.
It's like, yeah. So it was like, yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah. They have no idea of the depth of the Honger.
Yeah, I think
really
what the people that teach juniors like a Doug Lowry or Nicole Weller, name dropping here, Dennis and Justin Blazer, guys like that. It's people don't realize that we're part of developing a human being. We're in the developmental phase, so we are always adapting and adjusting. People are changing on a daily basis, kids. And I can honestly say that the people that I mentioned could stand in front of a tour player and work as easily with them as they could with a 5-year-old child. But how many, and this is going to sound like an insult, it's not, but how many tour instructors can stand in front of a 5-year-old child and work with them? Right?
That's well
Let's
said.
flip-flop the situation.
Yep.
And let's see what the survival rate is. Right? And I know some people are going to look at me now, they're going to be pissed, and it's like,
no, that's real, man. That's
yeah.
I mean, that's a good point. So tell the listeners how they can get a hold of you. Give them your platforms, give them your TikTok, give them your Instagram.
So my Instagram is James Hong Golf. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
My Facebook is James Hong, and my Twitter is also at James Hong Golf. So it's pretty simple. Nothing fancy there.
Reach out to this guy, ask him questions. One of the brilliant minds in our industry.
Crazy.
Not just for juniors, but also just for information, because
he has his good points. He's all right. He knows what he's doing sometimes.
I love it. Thanks so much for coming on the show, my man. You're the best.
Thank you for having me.
I love
this
you.
Was an honor.
Like a brother from another mother.
Same here.
And we will share a room again at the PGA show like we always do, and get after it in the condo.
Jeff Smith wants to know when you're going to have them on.
Exactly. It's coming. It's coming. So
Oh boy.
If we have our own teaching summit in the condo that people would probably pay for. With Rob Holding and Dunnigan and you and me and Jeff Smith and E.A. Tisler. I mean, we got a pretty decent group in there that gets after it. So look forward to that.
John Dunnigan.
But I will
John.
I will see you in just a few
very
weeks
soon
at the Top 100 Summit.
You got it.
You're the best, my man. Thanks again.
Thank you. Love you.
All right. Love you too. What's up, everybody? Guru back here with a couple of things before you go. First, big thank you to James for coming on the show and sharing his expertise on coaching juniors and his teaching insight and also his life lessons, which I think were outstanding. Make sure you reach out to James at James Hong Golf on the gram and on Twitter and ask him questions. Hit him up on the DM. Just tell him that he was great on the show and that you appreciate him sharing his information. Also, big thank you to our sponsor, nvidhemp.com, and make sure that you go buy some CBD and use the promo code GURU20 for a 20% discount for life, which is an awesome deal. Also, thank you to Hack Motion. Go to hackmotiongolf.com and use the promo code GURU to take advantage of free shipping for this awesome training aid. Also, check out my website at golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and more information on my teaching and coaching. And give me a follow on the gram or the Twitter at golfgurutv. Let's get those followers up. Let's spread the word about this podcast. Hopefully you're enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying bringing it to you. So, and also go to the App Store, as I said before. Download the Golf Guru app. Take advantage of that 7-day free trial, and let me know what you think. Give me some feedback. All right. So if you have a question or comment, you can email the show at golfgurushow@gmail.com or hit me up on the DM, as most of you do, and I appreciate all the love and all the DMs that I've been getting lately. This show and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show were produced by myself, Jason Sutton. Music is by Zach Mullet, aka Cutta Beats. Leave me an iTunes review. That would be awesome. Give me a 5-star rating if you like the show, and give me some feedback. And as I leave you with, always, the infamous Jim Rome, RIP, my man, study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.